Breakfast of Champions. So there's this article online that talks about millennials give their best money tips to the Gen Z. This article does have quite a few good pointers and tidbits and that I want to go over. And additionally, I also want to make a few amendments and additions towards the end. So the first thing to talk about is don't live beyond your means. This goes without saying, this is really good advice, and it follows along the idea of optimizing cash flow. So cash flow is your income minus your expenses, or the difference between your what you take home and what you pay out in your bills and your food and all that other kind of stuff. Basically means to make sure that your E is always going to be less than your I. Number 2 says to build a budget and stick to it as strictly as possible. And I just did a video recently on a budgeting system that uses envelopes that can be used with cash envelopes. So go ahead and take a look up here or here or wherever. But the main issue is to set aside every month a certain amount for different types of expenses. That would be your 4 walls, that would be your normal bills, as well as your sinking funds, which is something else I'm going to go over later on. And then to make sure that you're monitoring those expenses and you're only staying within particular boundaries. Right, tip 3 is to build an emergency fund. Now with this one, there's actually a little bit of an issue that I have with the way that they describe things. It says in the last 5 years, we have saved and spent $10,000 from our emergency fund 3 times, this particular millennial says. She used the cash for emergency surgery for her cat after it ate her hair tie, and another time was to replace car shocks. When all of these things happen in 1 month, it becomes hard. Your car will break, your pets will eat things they aren't supposed to, and so will your kids. Now, I agree that your emergency fund is supposed to protect you from unexpected things, such as your cat eating your hair thing and your brakes breaking, but those are things that actually should be covered within your budget under sinking funds. This particular person said that your car will break down and your pets will need particular kind of medical expenses. This means that you will need sinking funds specifically designed, or little kind of like baby emergency funds within your, that you put monthly contributions to in order to handle those things. The regular emergency fund, the fully funded emergency fund that we're talking about, the Dave Ramsey Baby Step 3 sucker, that's to handle things that are going on right now. A loss of income, or somebody gets severely sick and you need, say, $5,000 right now. Stuff that you really could not have planned for. So the way a sinking fund generally will work is you have time around here and you'll start to fund a certain amount of money, say $20, $30, whatever per month, and you'll put a certain amount of money away, and then what will happen is you'll then end up spending that money. And then you'll build up that money again for a certain amount of time, and then you'll spend it and the money will go away. And you do it again, right? And you'll do it again, right? And the slope of this line is equal to that 20, 30, 40, whatever per month. And it just keeps going on and on like this. This would be like your, memberships, or like, let's say you have an insurance policy that's, I don't know, $1,200 a year. So that this would be then $100 per month. And then each of these would be a year. And it basically creates this kind of like sawtooth pattern. But sinking funds, like for your car or for your pet, actually would need to start up right around here or something like that. And let's say you start funding it, and then you'll need a little bit, something like that. You may need to, get an oil change or something like that. And then you start building up again, and then you need to do another oil change. Then you need to build up again, and then say right here, oh, we have a major problem. Oop, we gotta fix the brakes. Or the cat has to go in to get something removed from its gut because it ate something that was irresponsibly left around the house. And then you start building up and building up again, and then we need to do again. And then you need to build up again and build up again and build up again, and then down here. What happens though is you have this kind of layer right here of money that's available to take care of anything. So that this way it can dip down and move around in all these different ways. So this way you can handle all these different types of expenses. Tip number 4, resist lifestyle creep. This usually happens as a result of getting a raise. So what usually will happen is if people get a raise, say like $50 a month, and then they'll start eating out more, which means they'll start spending on another $50 a month in food and stuff like that. So what ends up happening is their overall cash flow doesn't have any change. That's called it kind of basically it crept up without them really being aware of it. Or another thing will happen is people will get a raise and they'll take that extra $50, and instead of going out to eat, they'll trade in their current car. And let's say it's about $300 a month or whatever, and then they'll trade it in and for a new car that now costs $350 a month. It's the same issue. They got a raise, but it doesn't actually end up affecting them and helping them build any wealth because they just pissed it away on a car payment. Tip number 5, pay off your credit card balance each month. Okay, this is not really a tip. This is really just another way of saying make sure that you pay your bills on time and in full every month. Regardless of whether you use a credit card or a debit card, it doesn't really matter. Just make sure that you're staying on time with your bills. This is where the budget and the sinking funds will all come into play. Now those are all the tips from the article, which I'm kind of surprised. There's a few things I want to add to this that weren't actually originally mentioned. The first would be to make sure that you're investing at least around 25% of your total salary into some form of, whether it's a 401k or an IRA or some kind of a combination of those, so that this way you're constantly investing and putting money away for your future. And this goes along the lines of the principles of pay yourself first. So as I was thinking about this the other day and coming up with a script for this video, I actually found another application of this whole pay yourself first, and I actually really enjoy doing this kind of stuff. So let's say you start over here with your job, okay? This is where you actually bring, your money in, all right? So your job comes in here and it pays you a certain amount of money. I call that the gross, all right? It's gonna pay whatever that is, 30,000, not 30,000, I don't know, 80,000, 90,000, 60,000, whatever your gross salary is. Now what's gonna happen is it's gonna go through, draw this right, some kind of I call this like a little filter. So down here you're gonna have things like taxes are gonna have to come out, you're gonna have probably insurances that will come out, some random other deductions maybe that might end up coming out. But then what you're gonna do is pay a certain percentage, say into, say like a 401k, right? So what you're doing is you're paying yourself first on the gross. So this way you get the, put money away for your future. Then what comes off of this, call that your net. Okay. This is the income that I talk about with cash flow. And then from here, it goes into, I would do like a box here. This is like your checking account, right? So this would be your budget. Okay. And then over here, these are your normal living expenses. These are your bills, your food, your rent, your mortgage, all that other kind of stuff. And then the difference between this net income coming in here and these expenses is right up here. And that would be known as your cash flow. All right? Cash flow is the difference between income and expenses. And then up here you have your assets. Your assets might be your businesses, or maybe you have some real estate, and that is also producing income over here, or maybe multiple streams of income if you're good with that kind of stuff. And then you can take that income and reinvest it back up into the asset, which then makes the asset get bigger, which then can produce more income, and so forth and so on. Now I've gone over this little nerdy model thing over here, but the part that was interesting when I was looking at it before was you could actually take that pay yourself first principle and apply it right here, because this is an income stream. So you pay yourself first on that. Then you pay yourself first on this income stream. And then say maybe your spouse's income stream as well. And then all of these income streams. So you're constantly paying yourself first on all of these income streams and putting money away. Another thing to do is to make sure you build multiple streams of income, just like I kind of showed over there with all those little, from A going down and reinvestment. That could be in the form of whether it's a side hustle, or even if it's a second job temporarily, other investments, that can be in the form of real estate or dividend income. Always try to have multiple streams of income, because the problem is, and I think this is what's happening with a lot of people right now, is they're noticing that their main income source, if they've been laid off, has been cut off. And when that happens, you can be in a real financial bind when you have absolutely no money coming in. And finally, avoid debt at all costs. College may or may not be worth it for you, but if it is and you need to be able to afford it, there's always community college, there's working at home, or there's also working while you're living at home, as well as a bunch of scholarships and grants. Cars can easily be bought by just saving up your money and paying for them with cash. Finally, when it comes to buying a home, which is what my wife and I are going to be doing, we are not going to be using any kind of a FICO score or any kind of credit necessary, but instead we're going to take care of everything with what's called manual underwriting, which means you will not need a credit score to take care of that. You won't need to be taking out any kind of debt in order to build credit so that you can then take out more debt later on. It's getting a little warm out now, so maybe I'll do a video later on about how to stay cool during the summertime, but also keeping the bills a little bit down. We'll see. Anyways, have a great weekend, you guys. Take care, stay safe, and I'll see you next week.